Hi, this is an extension of previous lecture. In previous lecture, we have drawn the ellipse, and for to calculate the pixels or the points on the ellipse, we have used this equation. This equation is used to calculate the points on the ellipse. The first equation is to calculate the x component of the point of the ellipse, and second equation is the for the y component of the point on the ellipse. Okay, this two equation you can use for the increment form if suppose the incremented value between two adjacent points angle if you have to keep constant, then you can use these two equations. So this is the formula to calculate the pixels or point on the ellipse. So this formula is suitable only if the this axis of the ellipse is parallel to x-axis and y-axis, major axis and minor axis respectively. If suppose the axis is inclined with some angle, then this formula you can't use. So you have to develop one more formula for the incline ellipse. So this lecture will see how to draw the incline ellipse if axis of the ellipse is inclined with some angle. Suppose I want to draw this ellipse which is at an incline at an angle of alpha. So this is your x-axis and y-axis of the computer. It is your x-axis and this is the y-axis of the computer. Computer x-axis and computer y-axis, and it is 0 comma 0, the pixel number 0 comma 0 of the computer. And this ellipse ka axis, it is the major axis of the ellipse, the major axis, and it is the minor axis of the ellipse. This is the ellipse, is ellipse ka, this is the major axis and it is the minor axis, and the major axis is inclined at an angle of alpha with the horizontal. With the horizontal, the major axis is inclined at an angle of alpha. Suppose the major axis ka radius is a and the minor axis ka radius is b. Suppose the radius of the minor axis is b. So it is the radius of major axis and minor axis. So this circle का radius is b, the big circle का radius is a. No, you know how to draw the ellipse. Ellipse draw करने के लिए first we will draw one line at some angle u. So at angle u, I have drawn one line. In that case, the big circle say we have to draw one vertical line that means parallel to this axis, and from horizontal circle say we have to draw one line parallel to this axis. So here I am drawing two lines parallel to the both the axes. So first I will draw one line which is parallel to horizontal axis, and I draw vertical line parallel to the vertical axis. So you will get the point on ellipse, that is Pn. It has component xn and yn, and you supposed to calculate these points on the ellipse. So इस points के component have to calculate करना है. So first I see this is the center point of the ellipse is known as PC. PC is the center point of the ellipse. So PC is the center point of the ellipse and Pn is the next point of the ellipse. Is the start point of the ellipse is P, which has component x comma y. So it is the center point of the ellipse. Center point के दो components होंगे. So first component is the xc and yc. If you draw the vertical line, so this length is xc. So this length is the x component of the center point of the ellipse. The ellipse के center point का x component is known as xc. yc means इसका vertical component होगा. Y component of the ellipse is yc. If you draw this line, so this vertical length is the y component of the center point of the ellipse. So this length is yc. So xc and yc are the components of the center point of the ellipse. So here you can write the uh, PC is the center point of the ellipse. So XC, comma YC are the component of the center point of the ellipse. Then P is the start point of the ellipse. Start point of ellipse. It has component X, comma Y, and Pn is the next point on the ellipse. The next point on ellipse, and it has component Xn, comma Yn. Here you can draw the component Xn, Yn. तो Pn के दो components are there. So these two components we can draw. So this length is Xn. This horizontal length is Xn. So this length is Xn. This length is Xn. तो Pn का x component is called Xn. This vertical length is Yn. If I draw from horizontal line from here, from Pn, if suppose I am drawing horizontal line, so this length is, this vertical length is Yn. This vertical length is Yn. And you have to calculate Xn and Yn. So we have to develop one equation to calculate Xn and Yn. So it is your task to calculate Xn and Yn. On that is the point on the ellipse. So you have to change the parameter u from 0 to 360. We will get the points on ellipse. So you have to calculate Xn and Yn. So Xn and Yn calculate. So first I will draw a line from here, from Pn. This line, if I extend up to the axis, then I will get this length. This length will be equal to A cos u. If you consider this triangle, this angle is u, this length is equal to the A, radius of major axis. This length is A, then this length is adjacent to this angle. So this length is there at the adjacent to this angle, then hypotenuse is A. So A cos u will be the adjacent length, this length. Okay. And similarly, this length will be equal to this vertical length. If you calculate this length will be equal to B sine u. If you consider this small triangle, this angle is u, it is a 90-degree triangle, and this hypotenuse is B. So this length is opposite to the angle, so you will get B sine u. So this length is A sine u from here to here. From here to here, it is A cos u, and from here to here, this vertical length is B sine u. Okay, so this length is A. So from here, if I draw a vertical line, from here I draw a horizontal line, and from here I have drawn vertical line, suppose. Okay, this length I know from triangle. This length is A cos U, and this angle will be alpha because this axis is inclined at an angle of alpha. So, okay, so this length, I know that this is a major length, hypotenuse, and it is 90-degree triangle. This length is A cos U. We can see from here, this length is A cos U, and this angle is alpha. So this length we can calculate, this vertical length. If I draw on vertical line from here, so this length will be equal to, this length is adjacent to the angle. The angle के adjacent में है, and maximum length is A cos U. So this length will be equal to A cos U, A cos U cos alpha, because this maximum length hypotenuse is A cos U. So hypotenuse is A cos U, and length is adjacent to the angle. The adjacent to the angle is adjacent length. The adjacent length will be equal to hypotenuse into cos of angle alpha. The hypotenuse is A cos U. So A cos U cos alpha is this length. This much length is A cos U cos alpha. And from A, from here only, if suppose I have drawn this line, so this angle will be alpha. If you consider this small triangle, this is small triangle, this angle will be alpha. Okay, this length I know okay, B sin U. So here this length from this triangle, this length is B sin U, and this angle is alpha. So this length we will get this length. This length we can calculate because it is opposite to the angle. Angle के opposite में, तो you have to take sine of the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is B sin U. So this length will be equal to B sin U का sin alpha. So this length will be equal to B sin U sin alpha. Okay. Okay. So if you want to calculate xn means here to here. So xn will be equal to, from this geometry we can write the equation for xn. Here I am writing xn is equal to, this xn will be equal to this xc plus this length A cos U cos alpha minus this length B sin U sin alpha. So this is the equation to calculate the x component of the next point on the ellipse. Okay. Now similarly, we have to calculate yn. Here geometry we can see yn. So from this triangle only, I can calculate the vertical length. This vertical length from this triangle only. The hypotenuse value is A cos U. Adjacent value was A cos U cos alpha. Then opposite value will be equal to A cos U sin alpha. This length will be A cos U sin alpha. Okay. So this vertical length will be A cos U sin alpha. Similarly, from this triangle, I can calculate this vertical length, this length, this length. It is the adjacent to the angle, and maximum length is B sin U, and this length is adjacent to the angle. So it will be adjacent में है means B sin U into cos alpha. So this length will be B sin U cos alpha. So yn we can write from the geometry, this yn will be equal to yc plus this length plus this length. So yn we can write here yn is equal to yc plus this length is a cos u sin alpha, a cos u sin alpha plus this length b sin u cos alpha plus b sin u cos alpha. These are the two equations. By using these two equations, we can calculate the points on the ellipse. The x and y and are the x component and y component of the ellipse, which is equal to xc plus a cos u cos alpha minus b sin u sin alpha, and yn will be equal to yc plus a cos u sin alpha plus b sin u cos alpha. In that case, you have in that equation you have to change the parameter u from 0 to 360, and value alpha will be constant, which is the inclination of x-axis. The alpha will be constant. You have to change the parameter from 0 to 360. These are the two equations to calculate the x and y component of the ellipse. We can see here on PPT. So this is the incline ellipse, and we have drawn the geometry over here. And by using this geometry, we have calculated xn. Xn means iska component, x component. The xn will be equal to xc plus a cos u cos alpha minus this length. And yn के लिए yc plus this length will get yn. So here I am writing the equation, the xn and yn. So by using this equation, we can calculate the points on the ellipse with the parameter u is changing from 0 to 360. So these are the two equations to calculate x and y component of the points on the ellipse. And alpha is the angle of the inclination of the axis with x-axis of the computer. Okay. So by using these two equations, we can calculate the points on the ellipse. So it is inclined ellipse, is a geometry. We can see it. Okay. From next lecture, we'll start the next type of geometry, that is the synthetic curves. These are the analytical curves. So we have seen here two types of curve, the analytical curve and synthetic curve. In analytical curve, we have drawn the points, line, circle, ellipse. Now from next lecture, we'll see the cubic spline curve, Bezier curve and B-spline curve, that is synthetic curves.